Welcome back to the podcast, or if you're watching me on YouTube, I'm Alison Howard, and I have a question for you. Have you ever had a situation, and I'm guessing that you have because this is very common, but let's see, where you really want to change? You want to change something in your life or something about yourself, but you keep returning to the old you. And have you ever thought to yourself, man, I want to break that pattern? Well, today we're talking about that. This is something that every woman experiences when she is trying to grow, but very few women understand while it's actually happening. And it's frustrating. It's this frustrating moment when you feel like you've changed and you know better and you've done the work, you've journaled and you prayed and you've listened to podcasts like this. And maybe you've even bought the beautiful fancy notebook and the good pens because surely this is the season where everything is going to shift in your life. And then suddenly there she is again, the old you, the overthinking you, the people pleasing you. The let me just check one more time before I decide. You. The one who delays, right? The maybe I'm not ready yet. You. The I was confident for approximately 7 minutes and now I need a snack and a nap. You. Have you ever felt that way? I know I have. And when that happens, it can definitely feel extremely discouraging because you start to wonder, did I actually change at all? Or was I just temporarily inspired? So today I want to help you understand why you keep returning to the old you and why that does not mean that you're failing and how to begin breaking that pattern in a way that is grounded, in a way that is realistic, that it's a way that's practical and sustainable. So let's talk about why the old you feels so familiar. This is the first thing that I want you to understand is the old you is not necessarily the true you. It's just the most familiar version of yourself. And there's a difference. So the old version of you is the one that your mind and your body and your nervous system have practiced the most. So she's the version who knows how to survive, how to cope, how to protect, how to manage, and how to stay within what feels known. So even when you consciously decide, I am done living this way, your deeper self, your deeper system may still say to you, well, that sounds lovely, but we have a whole filing cabinet of old patterns that we've been using for years. And we're not just going to throw those away because you listened to one inspiring podcast episode or you read a great book. And honestly, that's fair. Your system has been trained through repetition. So, of course, it's not going to do that. If you've spent years overthinking things, then overthinking is going to feel familiar to you. If you've spent years just shrinking back, then starting to show up, being visible is going to feel a little risky. If you've spent years bracing for disappointment, constantly thinking about, the worst case scenario in every situation, then peace is not going to feel normal. Peace is going to feel weird. Peace is going to feel suspicious. And if you spent time proving your worth over and over and over again, then ease can feel like you're forgetting to do something. Ease can feel really disarming. So this is why old patterns can feel so strong. Not because they're permanent, but because you've just practiced them a lot. What many women experience in transforming is something that I like to call the identity snapback. Identity snapback is what happens when you begin stepping into the new version of yourself, but your subconscious mind and your nervous system pull you back toward the version of you that feels the safest, that feels the most familiar. So kind of think about it like a rubber band, right? So you're stretching yourself into this new identity. You're making new decisions. You're showing up differently. You're speaking more clearly and more confidently. You're setting boundaries in your life. You're posting the content. You're starting to lean into consistency. You're raising your prices. You are starting to really say what you mean. And then something in you goes, excuse me, ma'am, this is not our usual operating system. And so the pullback comes. You start doubting yourself. You start replaying the conversations that you're having in your mind. It keeps you up at night. You start wondering if you were too much. Were you too loud? Were you too brazen? You start checking for reassurance. You start wanting to retreat into the old version because at least she knows like the furniture arrangement in that room, right? She's comfortable there. It's predictable. But this does not mean that the new identity that you're starting to practice is not real. It means that the new identity has not become your default yet. And that is a really important distinction, and one that I think, will clear up some frustration. So let me give you a relatable example. One of my clients wanted to grow her business, and her business does require her to be pretty visible on social media. And she knows this. She has this message that she wants to share. She has something valuable that she's offering. She wants clients. She wants more clients, and she wants to create impact in the lives of these people. And she wants to stop hiding. She really wants to be visible. So she decides, okay, I am going to show up more consistently online. I'm just going to do it. So she records a video and she posts it, and she feels really proud for about 12 minutes. And then the old identity starts knocking. The old identity starts to say to her, well, what if people think that this is weird? Or what if I sounded too confident? What if I was too energetic and excited? What if no one engages? What if I don't get any likes or any comments? What if someone from high school sees this and remembers my bangs from like 1998, right? And suddenly, though, that woman who was just like wanting to step into visibility, she was wanting to do this, is now negotiating the old version of herself, who believes that showing up in that way, who believes that being seen is actually not safe. So in coaching, this is the kind of moment where I love to slow down with my clients, because the surface issue looks like inconsistency. And they come to me with that. Oh, I'm just inconsistent on social media. If I could learn how to be consistent, I would bring in more clients, more money, blah, blah. But the deeper issue is actually identity. So she's not just trying to post more. She's trying to become a woman who feels safe being seen, who is genuinely confident in what she's putting out there. And that's a really different conversation. I've had a woman come to me. I have many women who come to me. This is usually the number one request. They want more money. They want to create more income in their business. They want bigger months. They want more clients. They want to be paid well for their work. They're incredibly smart and talented women. And this one woman in particular, she was just really tired of undercharging and over delivering. So she raised her prices, and she begins talking about her offer in a way that's just more bold. She's being more bold. And at first it feels really exciting. But then what happens is the old identity starts to creep up. And she starts to ask herself, well, what if people think that I'm greedy? Or what if I'm not qualified enough? Or, what if nobody buys because they can't afford it? Or they perceive that they can't afford it? What if my offer is not strong enough to justify the price? Or what if I lower the price a little bit? She starts negotiating with herself, right? And just like that, she starts to shrink the very growth that she asked for. She's just doing it to herself. And again, this is not because she doesn't want more. This is because wanting more is actually confronting the old self-image that she has, that she holds. So the version of her that's been, practiced may be more comfortable with being helpful than being highly paid. She's more comfortable with giving of her time and her resources and her energy without being compensated for those things. And so she just has more comfort being needed than she does being respected. So she's going to be somebody who struggles with ease and with wealth. So that's the work that we would do together. And I say this with compassion because so many women have been conditioned in this way. This isn't something that we just were born with. It is a conditioning. It's a conditioning by society. It's conditioning by our parents, by our churches, by well-meaning people. But this is exactly why this work matters. If the identity doesn't shift, the old pattern will keep trying to reclaim these new opportunities. Every time the new opportunity presents itself, we're excited, we try to go for it, and then we go back into our old identity. So this is very important. Returning to the old pattern, it doesn't mean that you have failed. I can't say that enough. It means that you've actually discovered, you have found the next layer of work that you need to do. And I want you to really hear me here, okay? Because so often women measure growth by whether they, ever get triggered or ever overthink or ever pull back or ever, fall into these emotional like responses. But that is not how transformation works. A better measure of growth is, asking yourself, did you notice the pattern faster this time? Did you recover sooner? Did you have more choice than you used to? Did you respond with more compassion and less shame? With yourself, I'm talking about with yourself. And did you return to, your truth? Like, did you return to who you are more quickly in a good way? And that is growth. Like, that's what we want to focus on. So, if when things went wrong in your business or your job or your life or whatever, you used to spiral for 3 weeks and now you're spiraling for 3 hours, I mean, I'm not saying throw a parade, but honestly, maybe a small one, because that's awesome. Maybe throw a tasteful little parade, maybe with some snacks, because you are growing. Recovery time matters. Awareness matters. Interrupting patterns matters. And the goal is not to become a woman who never feels like this old pool. The goal is to be a woman who no longer is a slave to the old pool, who no longer obeys it all the time. You are starting to grow, and your nervous system is designed to keep you safe. And one of the ways that it defines safety is just familiarity. So you have to know that about yourself. This is why a new level can feel strangely uncomfortable, even when it's something that you really want. Every time I have grown my income, every time I have grown my business, every time I've grown my visibility, I have felt incredibly uncomfortable. I have almost felt like a fraud. Like, is this me? I'm not sure. And it's because I had just never done that before. It's only because it was new. And so a healthier relationship, for example, can feel really vulnerable. More money can bring a ton of pressure in your life because it's not something that you're used to. More visibility online can make you feel very exposed. More peace in your life, even though you desperately want more peace in your life, it can feel really unfamiliar. For me, I remember when I started stepping into more rest, deliberate rest in my life, and it actually felt really irresponsible, especially if I had a sink full of dishes. And that was because my nervous system was used to things being a certain way. Your nervous system is not asking, is this aligned with my destiny? Your nervous system is asking, have we survived this situation before? And if the answer is no, then it may interpret the new thing as a threat. And this is why you can desire change consciously while also resisting it subconsciously. And let me just tell you, you're not crazy. You are just trying to bring a new reality into a system that's been organized around the old one. This is also why support matters so much. Inside my community and also inside my coaching, we're not just talking about big dreams as cute, inspirational concepts. What we're doing is we're looking at what it actually takes to become the woman who can hold those dreams without constantly retreating back into old safety patterns. So, another piece of this is emotional familiarity. So, sometimes we become used to certain emotional states, even when we don't like them. This is something I work with my clients a lot. Is their emotional states and their emotional familiarity. So we can become used to urgency and chaos. We can become very used to stress. We can become used to chasing, constantly striving and chasing, and we can become used to disappointment. We can become used to proving ourselves. And so when life starts to feel calm or more aligned, or there's more ease in our lives, part of us don't even know what to do with that. And this is why women usually start to create chaos in these situations. And it's not because they want it. It's because chaos just feels known. So if you grew up or lived for a long time in an emotional environment where you always had to anticipate or manage or explain or kind of brace yourself, then calm may not immediately feel peaceful. It may actually feel suspicious. It may feel scary. Like, when is the next shoe going to drop? You might think to yourself, why is nothing wrong right now? Should I check my email? Should I create a problem? Should I reorganize a closet at midnight? And listen, I love a good closet moment. I absolutely do, but not when it's just anxiety wearing leggings, right? That's basically what it is. So part of breaking the pattern is learning to stay with new emotional states long enough for them to become familiar. So you have to practice peace. You have to practice being supported and having help in your life. You have to practice being visible and talking to your camera and showing up consistently. It has to be a practice thing. You have to practice receiving without immediately bracing for loss. I had this client who she started booking her own 10K clients. And every time she started doing that, she was like, oh gosh, what if she refunds? But what? And I'm like, no. We need to practice receiving without bracing for some, loss or a refund or, cancellation or whatever. That is how the old you loosens her grip. So how do we actually break this pattern? I want to give you a really simple framework for this. If you have your pen and paper, just start taking notes. But this is how you're going to break the pattern. This is the framework. Number 1, name the pattern without becoming the pattern. So the first step is to say, this is the old pattern showing up. Do not say, oh, I'm such a mess, or I haven't changed, or here I go again. All you have to say, and this is what I do all the time, is, oh, that's just the old pattern. That's the old program. That creates a separation. You are not the pattern. You're the one observing the pattern. And so you can create separation with grace for yourself. And once you can observe it, you can interrupt it. That is the first step. The second step is to identify what the old you is trying to protect. Old patterns usually have proactive intelligence underneath them. So, for example, the people-pleasing part may be trying to protect you from rejection. Or the overthinking part may be trying to protect you from making some type of mistake. The procrastinating part may be trying to protect you from being judged. So you just put off the reels, you put off the podcast. You don't want to be judged. Maybe the controlling part is trying to protect you from disappointment. I know this one well. If I can control everything, I won't be disappointed because I took care of it. Okay. So when you understand the protection, you stop fighting yourself and you start leading yourself because, babe, you're only doing these things to protect yourself. And you start to say, okay, I can see why this part of me wants to do that, but we're not living from that anymore. And then you can shift. The third thing, choose one small new response. Don't try to become an entirely new woman in one afternoon. That's a lot of pressure. And honestly, she probably has laundry to do. Okay. You don't need to do that. Choose one small response. If the old you would spiral, then the response is just a pause. That's it. That is a small response. When you feel yourself spiraling, just pause and do nothing. If the old you is going to over-explain, like you always feel like you over-explain and tell the story and give an explanation and defend yourself, just say less. Just be quiet. You don't need to explain yourself. Okay? If the old you would hide, take one visible action. One tiny visible action. If the old you would start to discount herself, like discount prices, I want you to hold the price. I want you to hold the price with full confidence. And if the old you would abandon yourself for approval, I instead want you to tell the truth kindly. Small choices compound over time. And these small choices are going to do the fourth thing that I want to talk to you about. And that's they're going to reinforce the new identity. They're going to reinforce your new identity immediately. Because after you choose differently, I want you to pause long enough to notice it. Say to yourself, this is who I am now. You're going to feel so proud of yourself. This matters because your subconscious needs evidence. If you do not register this new behavior, your mind may overlook it and keep telling you the same old story. So when you choose differently, let it count. Notice it. Celebrate yourself. Throw that little parade and say, yeah, this is me. I'm not going to over-explain. I don't need to do that. I'm not going to react and spiral. Instead, I'm going to pause. I'm going to go for a walk and listen to my audiobook. I'm listening to Theo of Golden right now, and I love Theo. I love going on my walks with him. Okay, fifth thing. Repeat until the new becomes familiar. I always say rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. We're going to repeat until the new becomes familiar. This is where most people quit too early. They think because the old pattern showed up again, the new identity is not working. And that absolutely is not true. You are noticing, you are interrupting. The old identity is staying in the past. It's going to stay there as you're doing this because repetition is how the new identity starts to become real. You're not failing because you have to repeat it. It's just like going to the gym. It's not a failure to do more reps because you want to see more results. No, you are rewiring because you repeat it. That is the work. The rewiring happens based on the repetition. That is the work. So I'm going to give you one more example because this is just such a common one. I had a client come in saying, okay, I give way too much. I'm done overgiving. I'm done carrying everybody on my team and in my life. I'm done being the one who makes everything easier for everyone else. And I'm exhausted. I'm the boss of the company. I'm the owner. I should be the one enjoying my business. And she meant it. Like she had clarity about the problem. She was seeing the patterns. She wanted to change. And then she had a situation come up. Somebody needed something, somebody was disappointed, someone was uncomfortable, and suddenly what happened with her was her old identity started to say, it's your job to fix this. You're the one in charge. So, of course, she wants to jump in. She wants to fix it. And it's not because she wants to overgive, but it's because her nervous system has associated overgiving with safety and love and belonging and taking care of everything. She's the rescuer, the hero. But in coaching her, what we did is we slowed down that moment and asked, okay, what would happen if you didn't fix that? What emotion would you feel if you didn't jump in immediately and fix that? What identity would you have to step into instead? Because the new version of her that she is ready to evolve into, ascend into, is not it is not just someone who says no. She is someone who can tolerate the discomfort of not managing everybody else's expectations. And so that's the deeper work. Okay. And that is exactly the kind of inner shift that will change a woman's life. One of the reasons community is so powerful is that old patterns thrive in isolation. I always say this. If you're ever around me, you're going to hear me say this at some point. Isolation is the devil's playground. When you're trying to do this alone, it's not going to work. When you're alone with your old identity, it can sound very convincing. It can sound logical and responsible. It can even sound like wisdom. It can sound like maybe now isn't the time, when really it is just fear. That is just fear talking. But when you're in a space where the new identity is being reinforced, where other women are also choosing differently, and where the conversation consistently points you back to who you're becoming and what you're wanting and what those goals and dreams are, because if you can see it behind your eyes, you can hold it in your hands. When you're in a community of people who believe that too, it becomes easier to stay awake to the patterns in your life so that you can start running the show and not the old programming. And that is what I love about my private community, the Inner Shift Society. This is not just a place for motivation, it is a place for change. It is a place for reinforcement. It is a space where the woman you are becoming gets more airtime than the woman that you're outgrowing. And that is so important. So let me give you a few takeaways to sit with after this episode. So the first one is returning to old patterns does not mean that you're failing. It means that the old identity is just still very familiar, and familiarity has a pull. We all know that. Second, the old you is not necessarily the real you. She's often the protected you. She's the practiced and conditioned version of yourself. I bet you have a big dream in your heart. You've had it since you were probably a little girl. You can see it behind your eyes, but there's so much fear wrapped around doing it. Who do you think you are, right? No, you are worthy. You are able. You're just living in this old programming that is preventing you from stepping into that divine call. And that is what we work on. Okay. So the third thing is when you break the patterns by noticing them, you break them without becoming them. So awareness creates space, and space creates choice. So break those patterns by noticing them, okay? The fourth thing, you do not need a massive new response. These are baby steps, y'all. Like you need one small different choice repeated consistently. That is how you break the patterns. And fifth, support helps new identity to stabilize. The right environment can help you remember who you are becoming when the old you gets loud. It really is about the environment. I have a garden and I've created the soil in such a way. It's soil, it has nutrients, it has peat moss, it has all these different things. The seeds that I have planted are thriving. They are growing because they are in a great environment. I am tending to it. That is what my private community is like. We are putting you in the right environment to help you remember who you're becoming when that old pattern gets loud. So if this episode is touching your heart, if you're like, "Oh my gosh, I am ready to stop feeling like I'm constantly starting over," then I want to invite you into my private community, the Inner Shift Society. This is my community for women who are doing the real work of identity change, of self-concept, of mindset and embodiment and inner transformation. And their businesses are growing, their lives are expanding. I would love for you to be there. So inside, we're not just consuming more information, we are practicing new ways of being. We are learning how to catch those old patterns, reinforce the new identity, and become women who actually live from these shifts that we're talking about. So the link is in the show notes. You can join there. And if you are listening or watching this and you know that you want deeper, more personalized support, this is also the kind of work that I do with my clients in my one-on-one coaching. But today, the invitation I want to extend to you, the best place to get started is in the community. I would love to get to know you. I do live coaching calls there. I have different resources I'm posting throughout the week, different journaling prompts and mindset work, meditations, all those things. I would love for you to be there. Your confidence and your actions will grow in such a beautiful way being a part of this group. So anyways, I want to leave you with this. The old you may still show up sometimes, but she doesn't get to run the show anymore, okay? She may knock on the door. She may have opinions. She may bring snacks and a very convincing PowerPoint presentation about why you should stay the same. But she is not your future. She is simply the version of you that was practiced the longest. And now you're practicing something new. So yay you. Now go and be the woman that your future is waiting on. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I never take that lightly. Your time is so valuable, and I really appreciate you spending it with me. I hope you have a great week. I will see you all next week. Until then, be blessed.